Hey, basketball fans, it is time for a brand spanking new episode of your favorite WNBA show, Around the Rim. We hope that you have been tapping in all season long on ESPN YouTube, saving us to your playlists. We see how our viewers have really jumped up over the last couple of weeks, so we know that you guys are following the W and you are interested in the conversations around the league. So that's what we are here for. I am LaChina Robinson, co-host Terrika foster-brasby, and we have a lot to discuss. We waited until Friday to record our podcast intentionally because we wanted to wait till the second matchup between the Aces and Liberty happened this week. I think the best way to summarize this conversation will be, what did we learn? And I'll start with you, Terrika, because I'm just interested in what you learned from the matchup between the two super teams of the WNBA, the two favorites coming into the season, the two teams that people thought would vie for a championship. How did you feel? What did you learn, actually, from the matchups this week?
Very interestingly phrased question, LaChina. But I will say that I learned that New York has learned how to play together as a team, which is a great sight to see. I learned that to your tweet, which I 100% agree with, there is a big difference between a three-point shooting team and a team that knows how to shoot threes. Mm-hmm. This is a good team when it comes to knowing how to shoot the ball from long range. Love that. I also learned that Las Vegas is definitely missing Candace Parker from a defensive standpoint. And although the bounce back was legit, there is definitely some defensive issues that they want to correct as we get deeper into this postseason. Or get into the postseason, nearing the postseason. So those are some things that I learned over the last couple of days. How about you?
Well, I mean, first of all, just to quickly recap for people that may not have been able to catch the games this week. The Commissioner's Cup was on Tuesday. It was in Las Vegas. That was obviously a game that wasn't scheduled at the beginning of the season. Both New York and Vegas had the best records in the WNBA, so they matched up in the Commissioner's Cup. And New York won on the road against Las Vegas. And it was a game that was dominated by the three-point line. In particular, Maureen Johannes and Sabrina Ionescu really went crazy. Jonquel Jones ended up being the MVP with the double-double. Aces just did not look like themselves offensively. And then they matched up again 2 days later on Thursday, and it was the Aces that won 88-75. Chelsea Gray had a triple-double. I think Asia Wilson finished with 21 points. Jackie Young had 16. Plum had 18 and got going really early in that game. So more of what we probably expected, especially being that this game was in the Aces home arena. So a few takeaways from me. This team will play one more time. These two teams will play one more time. And that is in later on in August. And I guess my takeaways are, number one, I've always felt as though New York doesn't necessarily have the personnel to be a consistently great defensive team. I think they can be a consistently good defensive team. They obviously showed that they could do that against Las Vegas in that first game, which they held them. But the challenge with New York is, can you outscore them? That, to me, is going to be the mantra of beating this team. It's going to be, can you score more points than them, period? Because they can put so many points up on the board. I know that in one of the previous matchups, and you and I have talked about this, and even last night, Maureen Johannes doesn't always shoot the ball great coming off of the bench in this matchup. She hasn't even ever been a factor. Second game in this series, she wasn't even a factor. And so, here are some points that could be available, maybe not. And even when they're not, New York was still able to get a victory, in that earlier contest because they have, I think, more scoring depth off of their bench than Las Vegas does. So that is going to be the question when it comes to New York is, can you score more points than them? Period. Right. I also learned that Jonquel Jones makes a huge difference. When she picked up her third foul in Thursday night's game, it completely changed things. A'ja Wilson was able to really get loose, get to the free throw line, get her confidence against some of the bench posts of New York just isn't the same.
Yep.
I thought, their ability to patrol the paint and switch and all that was severely impacted when JJ went to the bench. So I think she's a huge factor. For Las Vegas, Chelsea Gray is ridiculous. And we know that, and we knew that. And to me, whenever she makes up her mind that she's going to take over a game, there just isn't any stopping her. I thought the fact that Kelsey Plum got off to a good start was important. Their guards have to play well in this series on both ends of the floor. I think their posts can have off nights. I think Jackie Young can have off nights. This series itself will be dictated by whether or not Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum play at a high level on both ends of the floor. If they do, it is going to be extremely hard for New York to beat Vegas, period. I don't care if it's next week, next month, in the finals, playoffs, etc. Okay? My last observation is that Stewie has not really been herself in this series, at least the last couple of games, right? And so how does that impact things when she does? Will she struggle in this series for the remainder of however many games they have for the rest of the year? If she gets her footing, how does that change things in this matchup, right? She's also matched up often against A'ja Wilson, who's a defensive player of the year. She may never get her footing in this matchup, right? So those are a few things that stick out to me, but I was shocked that New York beat Vegas at their place by that large of a margin. I was shocked. And what it says to me is, yes, Aces miss Candace Parker, but also when the bench of New York plays well, Vegas is vulnerable. Period. Kayla Thornton too. I have to add Kayla Thornton to that.
And I was just going to say, I feel like this is a redundant conversation in some ways, because this isn't the first nor the second time that we have questioned the depth of Las Vegas's bench. Mm-hmm. We have had this conversation, I feel like, at least over the last 2 years, about the issue of when it comes time to find additional scoring, when it comes time to find additional people to consistently come off the bench for Las Vegas. Yeah. We never really know who or how that person is, because we're also, what does the depth of this team look like? And so I'm not sure that was an issue that, or maybe I should say it was an issue that I think the team thought that they addressed in this offseason. But now here it is late in this season that we are once again having this exact same question. And when you have an opponent like New York, who is finding that additional scoring, you're now wondering how much that's going to play a role in the postseason, where last year, not so much, given who they were matching up against in terms of Las Vegas. But that role looks a little different this year, because even when you talk about a Dallas team, they're able to find some additional scoring off their bench. Where if you got Kalani Brown coming in the game, she can give you 16, 17 easy off the bench, So the road looks a little different if that's going to continue to be a struggle for Las Vegas.
Well, and their bench did was a huge factor last year, because Rakana Williams was a major reason why they won Game 4 and ultimately won a championship. And here's the thing. I thought Kirsten Bell gave some really good minutes off the bench for Vegas. But when you're talking about bench scoring, is it even? Is it leaning towards New York? Like, you want to win the bench number when you can, especially when your starters are struggling. That becomes even more of a factor. So you can get some, but it's not enough coming off of the bench to make a difference.
Yeah.
Anyway, these two teams play again. I don't know. We'll check the date for you guys, but and then we may not see it again until the playoffs or until the finals, till the semifinals. Who knows? But there was another thing that stood out to me really quickly as we wrap this conversation. I watched New York's pressers. They came into this saying, we just want to learn. We want to learn more about ourselves as a team. This is a measuring stick for us. These are the defending champs. They're the favorites. There was a whole lot of respect for Vegas coming out of the New York pressers. Now, whether that was we just, doing this because it's PR, but it seemed to me that there was a level of humility in the Liberty to say, we know who the champs are. Respect is there. This is just our opportunity to see where we are. And so I think they may have even been surprised by what they accomplished. All right.
That's interesting. Before we go.
Yeah.
Because y'all not going to do this. Y'all not going to act like I'm not going to address this. I'm going to address this. Okay. I know everybody saw my tweet after the Commissioner's Cup.
I wasn't going to even say nothing.
See, LaChina, no, because then what she going to do is when this podcast is, or when this show is over, she going to get on Twitter and get on whatever and be like, y'all see, Terrika didn't say nothing. No, I'm going to address it. Okay. So yes, I tweeted out, New York, I was disrespectful. I apologize. Laughing emoji, laughing emoji, laughing emoji. Okay. I have ran with the joke of being the villain against New York for the last 3 months, and I'm cool with that. I'm totally okay with that. I'm totally cool with that because I said what I said and I ain't changing my mind. So I'm totally okay with that, okay? I think they had a great performance in the Commissioner's Cup, and I honestly have felt like this was a good team all year long, right? What I said was, and what I still continue to say, as we saw last night, what I still continue to say is that it needs to be consistent with this team. Now, since the end of July, they absolutely have been. I can't say nothing. Listen, I have nothing to say against y'all. Y'all are doing it. Congrats, well-deserved, well-earned, all of that. But it just needs to be consistent. That's all. We'll see if that consistency rolls forward. But don't y'all be staying in my mentions, acting like I hate New York or acting like I'm bandwagoning now because I apologize. I'm not doing none of that. I wasn't wrong with what I said initially. This team did need to learn to play together. They did need to figure out how to play without Breanna Stewart because them double 40-point games played a heck of a lot of roles earlier in the season. So I wasn't wrong. Y'all just got to quit coming for me. I'm not changing my stance, but I have a lot of respect for New York. They proved and they showed me something on Tuesday. Okay? Thank you. I'm done. Soapbox. I'm over it. I'm off it.
I just have two things to say about this soapbox. First of all, I'm going to have to go back and pull even more clips from Terrika because all of a sudden it's about consistency. If you want to be 100%, no team in the W is consistent right now. So this is a blanket argument about all 12 teams.
Pull them.
Is inconsistency not a thing in the like? Is there been any team
when you're
has there been any
a super team? See,
was Vegas consistent? Was Vegas consistent from Tuesday to Thursday? From Tuesday to Thursday. From Tuesday to Thursday.
You're talking about
Las
Tuesday
Vegas
to Thursday.
consistent?
You're talking about Tuesday.
Okay, go back to last week in New York. Then were they consistent back then?
Go back from where I made these comments. When I made these comments that y'all like to show in these videos, I was very much well within my right for saying those comments at that time because I responded to how the teams were playing at that time. I'm responding to how teams are playing now. I have the right to change my mind. That's all I'm saying.
All I'm saying is every team in the W reaches some inconsistency in their season. But anyway, my other thing I want to say about your comments is that I don't even remember now.
See?
Oh, Yeah. Never mind. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna go back and pull the clips. I'm not even gonna talk about it.
Pull the clips.
Okay. All right. So there's a lot happening in the WNBA. Terrika and I will start to preview playoffs, talk about our awards winners and all of that starting next week. But I had made a promise to some folks on Twitter that I wanted to highlight some of the podcasts in WNBA. This leads us to another conversation. Now I'm going to start this conversation by saying this. Terrika and I have always been an advocate of new voices in the W. Actually, we used to have a fourth quarter feature on our Around the Rim podcast called Growing the Game Spotlight. Terrika, who all was on that?
We had
so many people.
Everybody. Ari Chambers was on it once.
I don't think Ari was on it.
She was on it. Erica was on it.
We had at least
Alexis Robinson was on it.
We had a lot of people. Anyway,
yeah.
So we have always been about trying to give more shine to voices that want to cover the W, who are interested in it, who whatever we've come across over time that do good work, etc. So we've always been, big fans and wanting to promote. Last week, I made a comment that WNBA Twitter was not giving. And before I get to my rant on that, I want to start by giving some people some love. Now, what I will say is that as I've gotten older in this game, my community in the WNBA has gotten smaller because as you move on in your media life, you understand that where you get your information, you have your trusting, your sources that you trust, that are reliable, people that you've worked with over time, et cetera, et cetera. So in order to execute your job, you know how to get skinny with your resources. Now, when you have other time or extra time to go and check out new people and see how things are moving and shaking, you may run across something. Like I ran across, there's a young woman who did the hosting for the Commissioner's Cup, Tykira. Mm-hmm. I met her. Didn't realize she was from the DMV. So we kind of connected. So when I saw her name that she was hosting the Commissioner Cup, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to retweet this. I actually didn't get to watch it, but I did retweet it, try to give her a little support, whatever. So there are those moments where you run across people or you have you're like, okay, let me, check this out, whatever.
Yeah.
So I haven't personally listened to all these podcasts. Terrika, you can chime in for people if you know them, but I would recommend all of them because I believe in giving everybody a try. Okay, yeah. So some of the podcast suggestions we got, our friend Chrissy Winter Scott and Gabe have a Her Hoop Stats podcast that I have tapped in on a couple times. It's called Courtside with Christy and Gabe. So definitely check that out. TNG B-Ball and the Pull-Up with Miles and Owen. I think TNG B-Ball is Mark. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
You be on Twitter more than I do, so
I'm all about the pull-up. The pull-up is dope.
Okay,
Miles and Owen.
Off the Looking Glass with Kate Fagan and Jessica Montana. They've got Now also with Mark, and I can't say Mark's name, but it's
Schindler.
Schindler. Is that right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Queens of the Court, Jordan Robinson and Cheryl Swoops. I have listened to that a number of times. It's great. Dice It Up with Isis Young and Dr. Matea.
I've listened to that podcast a couple times.
Dano. Yep. Okay. Keeping it 9450, which we know our friends. Hey y'all.
Yep.
Kevin and K Dot.
Yep.
And Daniel. Yep. So love them, love their pod. I heard they're doing great on their numbers, so definitely check them out. Better Than Money. This is something new. Okay, Better Than Money had Dewana Bonner on it. Shout out to Better Than Money. They got some love. 6th pod of the year with a list of people there. Hey y'all. Rob, Opinionated MJ, Snap Wilson, Locked On Women's Basketball by The Next Hoops. Take Cover, Seattle Storm podcast with Big Nate.
Gotta check that.
Hitting the Hardwood with Mitchell Hansen, which I think focuses on the Minnesota Lynx.
Yep, I was on that podcast a couple weeks ago.
Okay. Nikias, friend of ours. Steve Jones 20 with the dunker spot. All right, I need to check that out. Off the Looking Glass. Not sure if I've seen this one. That might have been the one we talked about already. Gotta Get Up with our girl Erica. And Podcast for Liberty Fans with Brian Flutron and Erica. I don't know who Brian is, but they have the Gotta Get Up. I'm not doing it. You can see how much I'm on top of this stuff. Not very much. Sometimes I Hoop by Haley Jones got a podcast, and then any podcast by Big Low Dreer. Did I say last name?
Lauren. Yep, that's
Lauren. Okay, Lauren. Yeah, I've seen her name for sure with the WNBA spaces. Mm-hmm. So I definitely need to check her out as well. Anybody else, T? I think
the ones that I listened to, you named.
Okay. I think Winsider has a podcast too, right? Maybe. Did I say them?
I think Winsider has a pod, or at least they had a pod. I don't know if it's still active, but I know that they had a pod with Rachel. Didn't they have a pod with Rachel? Rachel Gallahan?
Yeah, maybe they do. Okay. So any other shout outs before I get to this topic?
No, you're doing it.
Okay. So thank you guys for that are doing the work. I always say this, but the game does not grow without all the levels of grassroots media coverage. Oftentimes when I'm asked, like, how is the WNBA growing? One of the first things I say is the number of media entities we have now versus before, the diversity in voices, the number of people who you may not feel like, you have a big platform, but you're making a difference, because media is different for everyone. We consume media differently. We all have preferences for what topics kind of, that pull at our heartstrings. You might love the stats, WB timeline, her hoop stats, great. You might love storytelling, so Ari or wherever you get your storytelling happens. Everyone's interested in something different. Everyone does it a different way, and I'm leaving a lot of people out of this, but shout out, because this all does not happen without all of you. Right. So I will say this. Ooh. I did say last week that I wanted to address WNBA Twitter because it wasn't giving, and Terrika, very rightfully so, brought up to me that WNBA Twitter is often associated with the hashtag WNBA Twitter only, which, Terrika, correct me if I'm wrong, that community is usually a very respectful community amongst WNBA, correct?
It is correct.
Okay, so I am not addressing hashtag WNBA Twitter. I am addressing people that talk about the WNBA on Twitter. And that could be members of that group. That could be members of whatever group. This is everybody. What the girl do on the plane?
All y'all.
Okay, and I'm gonna set this conversation by reading a couple of tweets. Devereaux Peters. Every single day, some of y'all get on here on this app and prove you don't know anything about basketball every single day.
Wait, no, when you read that, you got to break that up.
Every single day. At King Crystal. I didn't realize WNBA Twitter all hate each other. Let me stay over here by myself, child. Lexi Brown. She said every time I get on here, she walked in the door and then she walked back out. Asia Wilson had to address some foolishness on Twitter a few weeks ago with things that people were saying to her. I'm going to be honest. I used to love Twitter for WNBA content. And this is the reason why I don't know some of these people, quite honestly, because the app, in the WNBA space, has gotten really murky. It has gotten super disrespectful. It has gotten, it's not, the energy is not good. And let me just say this. There are some good pockets. There's a lot of good things happening. And I respect diversity of thought. Like, I understand for the WNBA to grow, everybody's going to want to come in and have their thoughts and opinions. And you just got to know how to hit the mute and block button. But at the same time, some people that consider themselves media, that have established themselves as respectable people in this business, are like, coming at each other or downplaying what somebody else does in the media space because it's not the way you think it should be done. And that is really my only gripe. I'm going to let all the rest of this stuff go, right? Because we can always block and mute, and hopefully Asia's blocking people and we all blocking and mute, whatever. Stop policing how other people covered the WNBA. You do media the way you want to do media and leave everybody else alone. Like, stop telling everybody what the media should be doing, how they need to be talking. This is not the job of the media. Like, I've never met such a progressive audience that then wants to have so much of a control and make us so single-minded as to how we take in our WNBA entertainment. And sometimes that's what it comes down to. Like, everybody's not out here with media professional in their bio. They just find some aspect of this game, of these players, of this experience that they like. And if you choose to call them media, then you do that. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, stop telling other people how they should handle players and stop. Just do your job the way you think it should be done and leave everybody else alone. And I can say this firsthand because I feel like people are always weighing in, and I don't care. But, and I'm not even on Twitter that much. So part of this is like outdated. But, people saying how we as broadcasters should be doing our job and what should we be talking about. You know nothing about the broadcast industry. Like, sit down.
Stop it.
Most people don't even know that when there's 3 people on the broadcast, we got 3 different jobs. There's a play-by-play, there's a sideline reporter, and there's an analyst. If any of y'all can get on there and tell me exactly what everybody's role is, I would be impressed. Give you a verified Twitter account. But like, I've had this experience and I just feel bad for people who are trying to get into media and are constantly being inundated and crushed by the opinions of people that are telling them how they should be covering the WNBA. Like, just do what you do. You know what I'm saying?
Like, I wanted to come on here and disagree with you because what I thought you were going to say and what you actually said, not the same. I 100% agree with you. And in fact, I would say that the one thing I do disagree with is that we can't call everybody media. I don't agree that you should just look and be like, oh, I'm calling this person media because this is where I get my news from. No, ma'am. Some of us worked really hard and paid a lot of money for a few degrees to give us a little expertise in what we do. And I take exception to a few people that you just randomly decided that you wanted to start a blog and write your opinion. And now all of a sudden you're trying to tell me how to do my job as a trained journalist. No, sir. I do not think that you should just call anybody media. I do think, to your point, everybody has a right to love this game, and everybody has a right to love this game in their way and share their love in that way. When you're telling people you're not official because you didn't show up to so many games, that's so stupid. What do you mean? That's so stupid. When you're telling people you didn't have credentials, so that's so stupid. Like, did COVID not show you that there's a lot of people that can watch a basketball game from home and do a damn great job of covering a basketball game? You do not have to have or meet a certain standard for credentials. That's so stupid. Mm-hmm. But what you're not going to do is be Lil Homer in your basement with 15 different Twitter accounts trolling everybody and then pretending as if you are greater than thou with how people do their jobs and people should call you media. That I do not like. No, ma'am. No, sir. Mm-hmm. That's not what's up. So please be mindful, would be my advice, at who you just love to get opinions from, who you just love to follow, who you just love to communicate with, who you love to hear talk about basketball, and who you actually consider media, because that ain't always the same. And a lot of times we get looped in with folks who not really media. They just folks with accounts that just like to run their mouth, and that's not fair to us.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing. But other than that, completely agree.
Yeah, and I like the passion of, you know, people on Twitter who talk about the WNBA. They wake up thinking about it. They've got issues on their mind. They want to discuss. They want to bounce off people. You know, the sport isn't big enough yet. It's getting there where the water cooler conversation is Vegas versus New York Liberty. Twitter has been the space. And, you know, I've been here holding it down on Twitter for women's basketball since 2009, baby. Like back to when my account was Lives to Inspire. Okay. Been holding it down in space a long time. So I know the importance of the Twitter community when it comes to WNBA, because sometimes that's the only place we have. I clicked on, you know, the other morning after the Aces in Vegas played, and, you know, Chris Williamson, right, and Erica are basically giving us a post-game summary of what happened. And I'm having my coffee, and I'm like, this is great. I can open up Twitter and I can hear the things that I don't hear on talk radio. Like, there is huge value in it. And you do have to decide how engaged and how involved you want to be based on your own mental health. Again, the space is going where it is. I have chosen to take some steps back from Twitter, but have fun with it. Just be respectful, man. You know, like, I remember when I used to enjoy getting on Twitter and hearing from different people that were passionate about. Now there's so much negativity in the women's basketball space. Like, y'all, the game is not big enough yet where we all need to be punching in each other and knocking each other down and discrediting each other. Like, we all working towards a common goal to build the game. And I'm not saying you got to like everybody. Like, I got plenty of people muted and blocked. I'm following 1,100 people, and I think 1,000 of them are muted or blocked on my own thing. Well, I guess I can't block them because they follow, but body's muted. Anyway, you can curate.
I just want to throw in one more thing too.
Yes.
For any players who are watching this or listening to this, because in my mind, y'all all watch Around the Rim. I
do get some texts.
Don't feel the need to respond to everything that everybody tweeted y'all. What I love about the W is that players are so close to the fans, and they have a great relationship with their fans, and that's awesome, because not a lot of leagues do that. Not a lot of people care about the people who care about them. But y'all don't gotta respond to everything that everybody texts y'all. I mean, everybody tweet at y'all, for real. And I don't mean that like ignore them because y'all are better. I mean, for your own mental sanity, like, just don't even give some people the time of day. Don't give them the leverage. Don't give them nothing. They're just not worth your time. And I know that there are a lot of times where you want to respond, you want to set the record straight. Don't even do it. It's just literally mentally not worth your time. There are moments where it's not about a block and it's not about a mute. It's just like, honestly, I don't have time to respond back to every single
I'm not giving this energy. Yeah,
I'm just not giving you this energy. So honestly, like, for the ones that are very active on social, please continue to support those who support you. But all these other people, you don't owe them your energy. You just don't.
Yeah. And with that, put your energy where you want it on WNBA women's basketball Twitter without the hashtag.
Mm-hmm.
But we do want to say again, thank you to everybody who's doing their thing out there. Check out those podcasts that we name, and of course, continue to tune in with Around the Rim. You can find me on Twitter occasionally at LaChina Robinson. Terrika is at She Knows Sports. I depend on Terrika to keep me updated on what's going on Twitter. So if you want me, hit her up. And we are at Around the Rim. Anything else, T? Can I ask you what you did for your birthday? Yes. Happy birthday to the Queen. August 17th is a national holiday. Terrika turned 25 years old.
Yeah,
and did you have what did you do? What was the highlight?
Well, the highlight of my birthday was I got to debut on SportsCenter. That was the highlight. But I had an excellent day. I'm celebrating all week. This year is just really about self-care. You know, I'm not ashamed to say that I turn 40 next year, so I'm saving all of the turn up for the 40th. But this year it was about self-care. I went to the spa today. I had breakfast me time with my husband yesterday.
Greg bought a nice bag too.
Greg, listen here. Greg understood the assignment. Okay, so yes, I had a wonderful day with close friends and family, and I'm gonna do that throughout the duration of the weekend. So I'm excited.
Well, Queen, we appreciate you. We love you, even though you get on my nerves a lot.
Nope.
You are one of my closest and dearest friends. And I am just grateful that 8 years ago, someone decided to put Terrika and LaChina together, and probably didn't think we would still be here. So shout out to you.
Defying the odds. Here we go.
Because we are still here. But yes, happy birthday, more life, more blessings to you. And with that, guys, we will see y'all next week. Bye.